In our modern world, constant and easy access to the internet is pretty much taken for granted. Most of us will have a device in our pockets at all times that is capable of accessing and using the internet. There is every chance that many of you are watching, listening, doing something on something small, handheld, and portable right now. Out of context, that sounds pretty bad, but it wasn't always like that. In fact, when the internet was in its infancy, the only reliable way was to use a desktop computer if you wanted to access the internet. And even then, it wasn't really that reliable. Because I am that old, I remember if you picked up the phone or tried to make a phone call, it would kick you off the internet. Good Lord. And at the risk of also starting to sound old, there are many aspects to it that were very much so products of their time. Things that no longer exist or are really nowhere near as prominent as they once were, including being as widespread. What has remained is the ability of the internet to give us the ability to communicate with other people that we may have not otherwise had the chance to meet. Most of the time, this is a good thing. A lot of the time, it's still a bad thing. I mean, it's an opportunity that we may have otherwise not been afforded to. So, I mean, that's kind of how I met my girlfriend on the internet. But there are always those who will use something for their own immoral, illegal, or even deadly purposes. Today, we're looking into the story of Sharee Miller and what became known by some as the internet's first murder case. For today's story, we're headed over to the state of Michigan in the United States. While it might be known by most, because it's the city of Detroit and sports teams based there such as the Pistons in the NBA or the Red Wings in the NHL, we are actually going today towards the city of Flint. Flint is located in the Genesee County and home to around 80,000 people. It has made the news in recent years because of the issues that it has had with like undrinkable and unsanitary water, and while that particular incident is a saga that probably is deserving of its own video all its own, today we are looking back to the 90s to see the circumstances that led up to the internet's first murder case. Bruce Leroy Miller was born in Flint on the 26th of July, 1901. He spent some of his working career with General Motors, which was a large employer in the area, and ran his own business, which was named B&D Auto Parts. Eventually, his auto part and scrap business would be his focus, and he gave up the other job to run it full time. His whole life revolved around vehicles in many ways, and he was a fan of auto racing in his spare time. And it could be argued that he maybe prioritized all things mechanical above everything else, and he had been married a number of times over the years, so I don't know why you would want to do it more than once, but hey, different strokes for different folks. Overall, he had a good reputation within the community. There had been some minor brushes with the law over allegations of altering VIN numbers on some vehicles that passed through his business, but nothing too substantial or too damning. He would end up meeting his next wife, Sharee, when he took her on to do some bookkeeping work for him, like, you know, just menial tasks sort of deal. She was born on the 13th of October, 1971. 20 years younger, what a dog, and was 26 years old when she met him. She too was born and raised in Flint, and she would describe her life up until this point as a little rough and chaotic. Going by the names Sharee Duval, Tribbley, and Paulette at various points, she was calling herself Sharee Kitley at the time when the two met. By this point, she was a single mother of 3 children by different men, and while there was not any initial attraction between her and Bruce, the two would fall in love and then get married by early 1999. Since Bruce was out working in his yard most of the time and Sharee was left in the house, he decided to buy her a computer. This helped her to sell makeup products as a small business, but what mainly happened was that she got herself deeply involved in chatting with others online, which is not great. For any of us that are old enough to remember, oh man, I hate saying that, AOL chat rooms were a fairly major part of the internet chat culture at that time, and Sharee would end up spending a lot of time in them. And the conversations she had with many of these people were a little saucy by standards, so we kind of know what's going on here. This attitude was apparently reflected in how she acted in her real life as well, with friends later stating that she pretty much acted single throughout her whole marriage. How much of it Bruce actually noticed and whether he simply didn't care or was happy was hard to tell. The pair's marriage may have been unconventional in some regards, but they certainly appeared to be happy. Sharee's online flirting and chatting was something that was becoming almost constant and turning into something close to an obsession for her. By her own admission, she would view it as almost a game. She should have just waited 4 more partiers and play World of Warcraft, but whatever. She would get involved with online strangers, escalate it as far as possible, and then move on to the next. She said, each man and each relationship was another level to me, and each level was harder. But one of these online trysts was about to move into the real world with disastrous consequences. Jerry Cassidy was born in Kansas City on the 6th of October, 1960. He had previously worked as a police officer and was living in Reno, Nevada. Hopefully not the police officers there. He used the handle Reno Dudes when he met Sharee, but the two soon became deeply involved and altered their names to reflect each other. He was Sharee's fool and she became Jerry's fool. Their online flirting was fairly full on, with Sharee even filming and then mailing a tape to him which featured explicit acts. Jerry had been going through a rough time work-wise as he turned whistleblower on some falsified documents in his department and was then frozen out by his workmates. He was demoted and then left law enforcement and then would continue to spiral from there. He got into drinking and drugs, his wife left him, and he was no longer allowed to see his son. Eventually, he would straighten himself up and begin working as a security in a casino before moving to Reno in 1999 to work for the same company there. This was when he would get involved with Sharee, and the two would even start to meet up in real life, with her flying out to see him, telling Bruce that she was going there for a convention to do with her makeup business, and that's just about it. But her game playing was at another level with Jerry. She had him wrapped around her finger, and she knew it. It should be noted that by this point, Sharee had already had surgery in 1995 that prevented her from being able to have any more children. She pretended to be pregnant, sending him a photograph of a positive pregnancy test, but then later claimed that she lost the baby. This, she heavily implied, was due to an assault by her husband, Bruce. She had never been pregnant, and Bruce certainly had not assaulted her, but it was part of the game that she was playing to keep Jerry at her beck and call. A second pregnancy scam followed, this time twins. Again, she sent confirmation to him, and Jerry was near frantic, wishing to swoop in and rescue her from her current situation and the monster that she claimed her husband was. And his fears would be amplified when he received an email that was apparently from Bruce, claiming to know about Sharee's pregnancy and that he was making her get a termination. A second email followed, again allegedly from Bruce, this time claiming the pregnancy had been terminated. Wow, this woman absolutely blows. A third email then lands on the 7th of November 1999, which includes photographs of Sharee covered in what appeared to be bruises. In case you needed confirmation, all of these emails were actually sent from Sharee, and she had faked the bruises with makeup that she had sold. I gotta get composure. Jesus. So the next day, she then speaks to Jerry online. He tries to comfort her, and the pair decide to put a fatal plan into effect. Jerry is headed to Flint, Michigan, and is going to free her from all of her problems so that they can finally be together. He sets off to drive to the location with every part of the plan already set. She had told him the best time to arrive, the easiest way to access the yard, and he is more than willing to do the rest. Sharee is on the phone to Bruce that night, chatting about dinner plans as Jerry arrives. She hears the sound of the back door opening over the line, and Bruce apologizes, telling her he has to go as a customer has just arrived. Sharee hangs up the phone, waits. Not long after, it rings a single time and then stops. Jerry has killed Bruce via a shotgun blast to the chest and neck, and then dialed her number for one ring, the agreed signal, so that she knows it has been done. This dude was minding his own business. Okay, I'm breaking in here. The most important thing, man or woman, that you can ever do in your life is make sure you choose the right person to entangle your life with. That includes dating, marriage, whatever. You really want to be careful, because this crap happens. It's like people got snakes in their heads, right? And it depends on what kind of snake it is and how many it takes to kill you. So you can live with somebody who has like 1,000 gardener snakes in their head, like, oh, you leave the towels on the ground, or oh, you snore, or stuff like that. Little annoyances, right? But all it takes is one rattlesnake to kill you. This woman had a head full of rattlesnakes. Good Lord. So anyways, he then takes off back towards his home. After what she imagines is a reasonable amount of time that has passed, she then phones Bruce's brother to go check on him. When the brother arrives, he finds Bruce dead and contacts the authorities. So before we get to the legal proceedings and the aftermath of the case, or the legacy that is left, it is worth looking into any other cases that might kind of share some traits and qualities, because, those might interest you, and the internet is absolutely horrific. But with the internet becoming such an ever-present part of our daily lives now, there have been numerous instances when people's online behavior behavior has contributed either directly or otherwise indirectly, I suppose you could call it, to committing crimes. One of the cases that best sums up a strange way that the internet can overlap with crimes is the screwed up story of Luca Rocco Magnotta. Luca was born Eric Newman in Ontario, and his mental health was an ongoing issue for him from his childhood. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia at the age of 12 and then would end up living with his grandmother for some of his childhood. While he tried to make his way in the world, working in various forms of adult entertainment, it was clear that he sought fame in whatever form it was possible to get. He would actually make some fledgling attempts at getting into some minor TV shows, and all the while spent countless hours online trying to manufacture interest in himself. He would use multiple accounts to create stories about himself, make fan pages, and generally just try to generate hype around himself. Luca would have some brushes with the law over the years for financial fraud and stood accused of fornication crimes, I guess is the best way to say it, but the latter would be dropped and his psychiatric condition was cited as a factor in most of these cases. Fame would come to him eventually, but in a more horrific way. He posted a number of videos online that showed him taking out kittens in various forms. So that's the type of guy you rip off his legs first. Anyways, the eventual kill count in the videos was posted with 4 kittens and a puppy, and due to the content of these clips, some corners of the internet are hell-bent on identifying and outing him. The 2019 documentary called Don't F With Cats on Netflix is the true story of the hunt for him and his identification and aftermath. However, he would soon move on to even darker pursuits. A video would emerge that was titled One Lunatic, One Ice Pick. And for the sake of guidelines on this website, we will kind of be vague on some of the details, but it actually showed them being taken out, dismembering, and desecration of the body of a man who was later identified as June Lin. Parts of the victim's body were sent in packages to various locations, and then Luca fled the country. After an Interpol notice was issued for his arrest, he was caught in Europe and then brought back to stand trial, where he was convicted and sentenced to life behind bars. Dude, why not just take him out? Why let people like this survive and take up tax dollars? I will never understand. But even a subject like that, the rise and fall of a Silk Road, could be something that kind of shows how much the internet has facilitated and changed the way that criminals operate. Founded in 2011 by Ross Ulbricht and accessed via the Tor network, it allowed for the sale and purchase of illicit substances between users, with all transactions carried out using Bitcoin. By the time that was shut down, it was estimated that over 9 million Bitcoin had changed hands. The website was then shut down in October of 2013, and Ulbricht was sentenced to 2 life sentences before being pardoned by Donald Trump in 2025. All right. So while there is no denying that the internet has played a major role in many gruesome and horrific crimes, there have been lighter moments when it comes to online crime. One of the best examples is a website actually named rentahitman.com, which was started in 2005 by a man named Bob Innes, possibly even Ines. The website itself was never meant to be an actual service that advertised murder for hire, but Bob was inundated with messages from visitors to his site with exactly that in mind. Initially, he considered these messages either to be just joking in nature or, at least realizing that there's a chance of legitimate assassination service being advertised on the open internet with such obvious name to be nearly zero, right? Nobody could believe this is real. Then in 2010, he received a message that appeared to be genuine request from a Canadian woman named Helen. She wanted members of her family taken out in order to secure some money, and believing the request to be sincere, he contacted authorities and then passed on her information, which then would lead to her arrest. Realizing that there was a chance that people would essentially tell on themselves in this way, he overhauled the site to make it appear on the surface at least a little more legitimate. There were still jokes, satire, and obvious comedic elements throughout it that should have tipped most people off that it was not a real service being offered, but he kept getting requests. Never underestimate how stupid people can be. So as before, he would ignore any that were playing along with the joke and had humorous elements to them, and then would pass any that he considered to pose a legitimate danger to someone's life on to the authorities. By his own estimation, he believes that around 12 people have been prosecuted due to their requests made on his site, and he believes he has saved more than 100 potential victims from serious harm. And with that more lighthearted final similar case, we'll head back into Sharee Miller, the woman who probably just needs to be, I don't know, what is it called? I'm gonna go with red iron hawked in the woods, because I don't think I can say what that actually is, and see how the justice system handled her case and see what precedent was about to be set. Initially, Sharee was not suspected of having anything to do with the crime. Instead, authorities focused in on the fact that Bruce was known to carry large sums of money on him and suspect that maybe a robbery may have been the motive. As the police dug into Bruce's background, they came across a former employee who was called John Hutchinson. He had been involved in whatever VIN number scheme scheme Bruce had been running and also owed Bruce a significant amount of money. He had also been previously romantically involved with Sharee. Good God, is everybody involved with Sharee? Before Bruce had actually married her. When he was pulled in for questioning, he failed a lie detector test and provided a weak alibi. With no forensic evidence at the scene and John looking like their man, the police interrogated him and then seized his weapons. But although the police had noted that Sharee's reaction to the news had seemed fairly typical, others close to her noticed that she was very quick to begin to go back out drinking, partying, and spending Bruce's money rather than being distraught. And it wouldn't be long before she moved her new boyfriend in. But it wasn't Jerry, another local man. And as Jerry was given the cold shoulder, he began to look deeper into the background of what she had told him and slowly began to realize the truth, that he's an idiot. Seriously, bro, you are a patsy. Use your upstairs brain, not your downstairs brain, all right? If somebody is sending you, okay, I'm just gonna tell you this, right? Not victim mentality, but people who actually go through things, it's difficult to talk them out of those situations because the human brain is just kind of a screwed up place, but you have to verify things. You have to, you can't just be like, oh, you're sending me pictures and just you're telling me these things happen. I've never actually spoken to Bruce directly. Everything was kind of pointing to that it was lying, and you were so hot and heavy in the moment, you didn't think to use your upstairs brain for a second. You're just like, oh, I'm gonna come in and beat my chest and that's gonna be the end of that. No, dude. Anyway, so there's something to be said. Little bit of Messiah's complex here, or savior complex. Essentially, when you get into first responders, I'm guilty of it. I did the whole EMT thing. A lot of people do, but first responders can have savior's complex. And this guy, hook, line, and sinker, went straight for it. Anyways, he had discovered that there had been no abuse or beatings or even pregnancies and that she had used him. He would become despondent over this and would end up taking his own life. And again, I hate to speak ill of the dead, but good Lord, this is stuff that you gotta pay attention to. You cannot just trust what everybody tells you. But he would then go on to finger her in his self-delete note, and this is part of what he wrote. I drove there and killed him. Sharee was involved in the setup. I have all the proof and I am sending it to the police. She will get what's coming. I have been so stupid, but now you know the real story of why I went into such a state of depression, because I just couldn't tell anyone the truth. She just wanted all her money and no more husband. Well, she got her wish, but she is soon to learn that she can't do that to people. Kind of left out his own role there, but with the note in hand and all of the chat logs between the pair meticulously saved by Jerry before his death, Sharee was arrested in February of 2000 and then charged with conspiracy to commit murder and second-degree murder. With the case finally going to court, it was noted in many parts of the media due to the largely online aspects of this case that it was a bit different. To many, it was one of the first times that transcripts from online conversations made up a large part of the prosecution case. It could also be a landmark moment for many people when they truly realize the fact that everything we do on the internet is retained in some form forever. Much of the logs were read out verbatim in the courtroom, including very damning specifics that showed she had a driving role in the murder. The prosecution showed that less than a week after Bruce's murder, she spoke to AOL and changed all of her personal details as she had done many times before. She did the same after Jerry took his own life. On the 22nd of December, she was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. Why waste the tax dollars? Get rid of her. However, there were concerns with aspects of the trial, such as whether a suicide note should have been allowed to have been used as a critical piece of evidence, especially since the man who wrote it was not there to be cross-examined. These legal issues dragged on until about 2008, when she was granted a new trial, and in July of 2009, Sharee was released from prison until the new trial could take place. Her conviction was upheld on the 12th of August, 2012, and she went back to prison to serve the rest of her life sentence. And this may be a little confusing to people. Life sentences, I believe that means 25 years. So let's see. She went in, I believe in, it should be 2000, right at the end there in December. So she went in, oh God. I don't know if the 3 years count in between 2009 and 2012 when she went back, but that means she gets out this December possibly. Ugh. Anyways, so her story and that of Bruce and Jerry would be featured in numerous news stories and documentaries in the years since, particularly any time that the internet played a pivotal role in a crime. It wouldn't be until 2016 that Sharee would fully admit her role in orchestrating the murder, a full 16 years after her arrest. She had denied it all the way through her trial and her appeal up to that point, although the information was right there and they read it to her verbatim. So with her confession, she's now guaranteed to spend the rest of her life behind bars. But again, a life sentence is about 25 25 years. Woof. And that is it for the story of the internet's first murder case, a watershed moment in the history of technology for all the wrong reasons. Let us know if there are any other stories that you think deserve their own video, and check out any of the other true crime videos in the sidebar. And this is where I jump in for a sidebar because the script has been completed. So now we're just gonna ad lib. Okay, so as always, Papa Roanoke is gonna tell you the same thing I always tell you. I know I've said it once, be careful about who you let into your life. It'll screw up finances, your reputation, your view on life. It really can set you back if you pick the wrong person. But you know, you typically wanna look at people's past. Yes, people can change, but if you look at their past and you see things that are sketch, it doesn't matter how sweet or generous or kind they are, you need to be careful when you approach. The other thing is, you know, communication with your partner is key for things like this. I'm not laughing at anybody. It's just, I know myself too. Like, I'm not the best communicator in the world, but you really need to pay attention to these things. Overall, I think this woman does not need to be out in society. She has her problems. She just orchestrated the death of what appears to be a loving husband who didn't do anything to her, for the simple fact that it gives her a feeling of power. That's what that is. It's all power. And anybody like that is gonna get out, and they're still gonna they're gonna crave that power that they once had. Now, the internet is different than it used to be. People are a little smarter about what they post. Just kidding, they're not. Everybody's still equally as stupid. So it is what it is. But I would say, you know, if you wanna get out of a situation and you want a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend or whatever, just finish your candy bar before you open the next candy bar, and don't destroy the first candy bar to get to the second candy bar. This is so ridiculous. But anyways, I'm gonna drop it there. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope everybody enjoyed. If you did, then please leave a like as it helps the video, and subscribing is a great way to stay up to date on when I post. I'd also like to thank my patrons real quick. At the literal Wendigo tier, we have Grayson West, Michigan Dogman, Monkey Man, and Scrungle. Thank you guys. At the Eyewitness to the Event tier, we have Beaver Malaga and Dragon Master Knight. Thank you guys. At the secondhand accounts tier, we have Bianca, Crippling Depression Gaming, Fred Rush, Stutz, and Troy. And then the rest of my patrons, I do appreciate y'all's support as well. It goes a long way towards helping out the channel, so thank you. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for me. I hope everyone enjoyed. I'll see y'all in the next one.